Chapter 5. Christmas. Section 1. The first term at the Earl's Court Polytechnic seemed to go by very quickly, and in no time at all it was the Christmas vacation. Mary took a couple of weeks off, so that both of them could go to Arthur's home in Applefield for Christmas itself, and to Mary's parents in Middleford for the New Year. On the first Monday of the vacation, Mary did all their Christmas shopping in Oxford Street. She likes seeing the lights and hunting around the shops for presents. Arthur didn't bother to go, as he doesn't like to be pushed and shoved in the Christmas rush. In fact, he doesn't like going shopping at all. He prefers staying at home in front of a warm fire, watching television or reading. The following day, they caught the 8:30 train from Paddington to Applefield. The weather was unusually cold. It started snowing while Arthur and Mary were on the train, and by the time they arrived, it was already 3 inches deep. It continued snowing for the rest of the day, and Mrs. Newton said it looked like being a real old-fashioned Christmas. Most people in the village like to see the ground covered in snow. But Dr. Newton hates to go on his rounds in these conditions when the roads are slippery and you can get stuck in the snow. Arthur's sister Jennifer hadn't yet arrived home. She had just left school and was training to be a nurse in one of the London teaching hospitals. It was impossible for her to get away until Christmas Eve. Mrs. Newton loves having all her family around her at this time. She couldn't bear to think of Christmas without them. On Christmas Eve, Jennifer arrived in time to help the others, who were busy wrapping up presents to put round the Christmas tree. She said she was sorry she hadn't seen Arthur and Mary in London. She had. Most nurses, she had been rushed off her feet most of the time. In the evening, a number of people called round to the Newtons to wish them all a Merry Christmas, so everybody had a jolly evening. They all continued talking until well past midnight, and finally went to bed. On Christmas morning, everyone got up rather late, except for Mrs. Newton, who got up at 8 o'clock to start to prepare the Christmas dinner. She had to stuff the turkey and put the Christmas puddings on the stove, as they take a long time to cook. Jennifer, Arthur, and Mary went round to see 1 or 2 friends in the village about midday, and got back home at about 2:30. At 3 o'clock, everybody listened to the Queen's speech on television. Immediately after this, Mrs. Newton brought the turkey in, and Dr. Newton started to carve it. Then everybody sat down to their Christmas dinner, after which they all opened their presents. The rest of the day was spent in a very relaxed way. Dr. Newton fell asleep in his favourite armchair, while Mary and Jennifer did the washing up. The day ended very quietly. Section 2. The typical English Christmas is becoming more of a commercial bonanza than a religious festival. It would be quite untrue to say, however, that everybody ignores the religious aspect. Many young children take part in nativity plays organized by their schools. Churches are still well attended at Christmas services, if at no other time. This is especially true in rural areas. Children still go from door to door, singing the traditional Christmas carols. Some children go with organized parties to collect for charity, but there are many others who are freelance and are merely collecting money for themselves. But above all, the shopkeepers and owners of large department stores rub their hands at the prospect of large profits to be made from presents, cards, luxury food, and drink. The main features of Christmas for most people are overindulgence,
and the giving and receiving of presents. Christmas is the time when people who have been out of touch with friends and relatives for the rest of the year write a letter or send a card. Section 3. While Shepherds Watched Their Flocks. Words by Nahum Tate. Music 16th century.
While shepherds watched their flocks by night, all seated on the ground, the angel of the Lord came down, and glory shone around. Fear not, said he, for mighty dread had seized their troubled mind. Glad tidings of great joy I bring to you and all mankind. To you in David's town this day is born of David's line a Savior who is Christ the Lord, and this shall be the sign. The heavenly babe you there shall find, to human view displayed, all meanly wrapped in swathing bands, and in a manger laid. Thus spake the seraph, and forthwith appeared a shining throng of angels praising God, who thus addressed their joyful song. All glory be to God on high, and to the earth be peace. Goodwill henceforth from heaven to men, begin and never cease.
Dialogue.
Would anybody like another turkey sandwich? What about you, dear?
Oh, no, thanks. I couldn't bear to eat another thing.
Or anybody else, then? You, Jack? Jennifer? Arthur?
Not for me, thanks.
No, thanks, I couldn't.
No, thank you, Mother.
I always think Boxing Day is a bit of an anticlimax, don't you, Mary?
Yes, I suppose it is, really.
I remember when Jennifer and Arthur were little. We always used to go to a pantomime on Boxing Day. Jennifer used to love to go up to London and see all the lights.
Yes, that's right. Funny thing, you know, Mary. When they got their presents at Christmas, Jennifer always preferred playing with Arthur's trains and things to playing with dolls and teddy bears.
Oh, rubbish, Daddy. Anyway, Arthur used to play with my doll's house.
Oh.
Tell you what, I think I'll do a spot of washing up now.
Oh, don't bother doing that now. We can leave that till tomorrow morning.
Is there anything decent on the box?
Let's see. I'll just have a look in the paper. Well, there's A Christmas Carol on BBC One.
Ooh.
Some awful American musical on ITV. I personally don't intend watching either of those.
What about BBC Two?
Experiments in Atonal Harmony by the New Century String Quartet.
Oh.
How does that grab you, Jennifer?
Oh, no, I couldn't bear listening to that. Why not play some records?
Oh, that's a good idea. I've got Johnny Jingo's latest LP.
Oh.
I'll go and get it.
Heaven preserve us, I can't stand any of that sort of stuff. I wouldn't mind watching the musical, actually. Isn't it Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire?
Actually, it's about half over, Dad.
I want to listen to the record Arthur gave me. It's overtures from the Gilbert and Sullivan Opera.
I know. Let's have a game of cards.
I'm not playing cards. I want to listen to Johnny Jingo.
Well, nobody else does. That's just typical of you.
Well, you lot can continue to argue all night for all I care. I'm going to bed.
Oral Practice 1. Listen and repeat. A. Turkey sandwich. Another turkey sandwich. Like another turkey sandwich. Would anybody like another turkey sandwich? B.
In the paper. A look in the paper. Have a look in the paper. I'll just have a look in the paper.
C.
Musical, actually. Mind watching the musical, actually. I wouldn't mind watching the musical, actually.
D.
Gave me. Arthur gave me. The record Arthur gave me. I want to listen to the record Arthur gave me.
E.
All I care. For all I care. All night for all I care. To argue all night for all I care. Well, you lot can continue to argue all night for all I care.
That's the end of Oral Practice 1. Oral Practice 2. You will now hear a dialogue in which you are going to take part. Listen, please.
What do you think of the turkey? It was lovely, thanks. I can't remember when I tasted such a nice one.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Have some more wine.
No, really. I've had 2 glasses already.
Come on, it's Christmas.
Well, just a tiny drop then. Oh, that's plenty, thanks.
Is this the first time you've spent Christmas in England?
No, not exactly. But it's the first time I've spent Christmas in an English home.
And how do you find it?
It's fascinating. The decorations, the Christmas tree, the food.
What do you think of our Christmas carols? Have you learnt any?
Well, I've tried to, but I must say the words are sometimes hard to understand.
Yes, I suppose they are.
Now you will hear the dialogue again. This time you must talk to the hostess and speak at the same time as the speaker on the tape.
What did you think of the turkey?
It was lovely, thanks. I can't remember when I tasted such a nice one.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Have some more wine.
No, really. I've had 2 glasses already.
Come on, it's Christmas.
Well, just a tiny drop then. Oh, that's plenty, thanks.
Is this the first time you've spent Christmas in England?
No, not exactly. But it's the first time I've spent Christmas in an English home.
And how do you find it?
It's fascinating. The decorations, the Christmas tree, the food.
What do you think of our Christmas carols? Have you learnt any?
Well, I've tried to, but I must say the words are sometimes hard to understand.
Yes, I suppose they are.
Good. Now, this time you must talk to the hostess on your own.
What did you think of the turkey? Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Have some more wine. Come on, it's Christmas. Is this the first time you've spent Christmas in England? And how do you find it? What do you think of our Christmas carols? Have you learnt any? Yes, I suppose they are.
That's the end of Oral Practice 2. Oral Practice 3. Listen carefully to the passage. When you've heard it once or twice, try to answer the questions in your book.
Christmas Day and Boxing Day have for a long time been holidays in England. New Year's Day has only recently become one. If New Year's Day hadn't been made a holiday, however, for many people it wouldn't have made a great deal of difference. For many years, although places of work were officially open, a large number of workers used to stay away with colds, headaches, or minor stomach upsets. At least, these were offered as the excuse. Christmas Eve, on the other hand, has never been a holiday, but it isn't a day when much work gets done either. It's the one day of the year reserved for the office party. At about lunchtime, everybody gathers together for a drink or two, and when all the bottles are empty, the office closes.
That's the end of Oral Practice 3. Oral Practice 4. Listen, please.
Where did James park his car? Was it outside Jane's house?
Yes, I actually saw it parked outside her house.
Yes, I actually saw it parked outside her house.
Did they play that song on the radio?
Yes, I actually heard it played on the radio.
Yes, I actually heard it played on the radio. Now you go on in the same way.
Where did James park his car? Was it outside Jane's house?
Yes, I actually saw it parked outside her house.
Did they play that song on the radio?
Yes, I actually heard it played on the radio.
Did some youths rob him in the street?
Yes, I actually saw him robbed in the street.
Do they really serve caviar in that restaurant?
Yes, I actually saw it served in that restaurant.
Can you grow grapes in England?
Yes, I actually saw them grown in England.
Did they really say she was ugly at work?
Yes, I actually heard it said at work.
Did he really leave all that money on his desk?
Yes, I actually saw it left on his desk.
Did somebody really write those words on the wall?
Yes, I actually saw them written on the wall. Oral practice 5. Listen, please.
Where did you leave your gloves? Were they really lying on the floor?
Yes, that's right. I left them lying on the floor.
Yes, that's right. I left them lying on the floor.
Where did Barbara see Jim? Was he really sitting on the grass?
Yes, that's right. She saw him sitting on the grass.
Yes, that's right. She saw him sitting on the grass.
Now you go on in the same way.
Where did you leave your gloves? Were they really lying on the floor?
Yes, that's right. I left them lying on the floor.
Where did Barbara see Jim? Was he really sitting on the grass?
Yes, that's right. She saw him sitting on the grass.
Was Jane wearing a white dress when she married Stanley?
Yes, that's right. She married him wearing a white dress.
Is that what you heard? Were the neighbours arguing next door?
Yes, that's right. I heard them arguing next door.
You say you smelt the meat. Was it really burning in the kitchen?
Yes, that's right. I smelt it burning in the kitchen.
Was he really riding a horse when you saw him in the park?
Yes, that's right. I saw him riding a horse in the park.
Were the papers lying on the floor when you found them?
Yes, that's right. I found them lying on the floor.
Charles was fishing by the river when you saw him, did you say?
Yes, that's right. I saw him fishing by the river.
Oral practice 6. Listen, please.
It's a nice day. Shall we have a picnic?
Yes, as it's a nice day, I suppose we could have one.
Yes, as it's a nice day, I suppose we could have one.
It's getting very dark. Shall we put on the light?
Yes, as it's getting very dark, I suppose we could put it on.
Yes, as it's getting very dark, I suppose we could put it on.
Now you go on in the same way.
It's a nice day. Shall we have a picnic?
Yes, as it's a nice day, I suppose we could have one.
It's getting very dark. Shall we put on the light?
Yes, as it's getting very dark, I suppose we could put it on.
I've worked hard this week. May I have this afternoon off?
Yes, as you've worked hard, I suppose you could have it off.
It's payday. Shall we go to a restaurant for dinner?
Yes, as it's payday, I suppose we could go to a restaurant for dinner.
I'm broke. Can you lend me £1?
Yes, as you're broke, I suppose I could lend you £1.
I'm not well. May I go home?
Yes, as you aren't well, I suppose you could go home.
I'm a millionaire. Will you marry me?
Yes, as you're a millionaire, I suppose I could marry you.
This exercise is getting boring. Can this sentence be the last?
Yes, as it's getting boring, I suppose this sentence could be the last.
Oral practice 7. Listen, please. Has your son started to smoke?
Yes, he started smoking, I'm afraid.
Yes, he started smoking, I'm afraid.
Will he continue smoking, do you think?
Yes, he'll continue to smoke, I'm afraid.
Yes, he'll continue to smoke, I'm afraid.
Now you go on in the same way. Has your son started to smoke?
Yes, he started smoking, I'm afraid.
Will he continue smoking, do you think?
Yes, he'll continue to smoke, I'm afraid.
Does your wife intend to leave you?
Yes, she intends leaving me, I'm afraid.
Does she like having a good time?
Yes, she likes to have a good time, I'm afraid.
Does she propose going soon?
Yes, she proposes to go soon, I'm afraid.
Would she prefer living without you?
Yes, she'd prefer to live without me, I'm afraid.
Does she hate to live with you?
Yes, she hates living with me, I'm afraid.
Has it begun to rain?
Yes, it's begun raining, I'm afraid.
Oral practice 8. Dictation. Cover up the passage and listen, please.
Christmas is an occasion when traditionally people are supposed to be especially kind to each other. In one of Charles Dickens's most famous stories, A Christmas Carol, the main character is an old man who was very unkind to everybody, and especially to Bob, a man who worked for him. On Christmas Eve, he did not give him any extra money or let him go home early, as is the custom. However, in the night, he had a terrible dream in which he saw all the awful things that would happen to him if he continued to be unkind. On Christmas morning, he woke up a changed man. He bought a turkey and sent it to Bob's house, and on the following day, he put his salary up.
Now you'll hear the passage again, and this time you must write down what you hear. Stop the machine at the pauses.
Christmas is an occasion when, traditionally, people are supposed to be especially kind to each other. In one of Charles Dickens's most famous stories, A Christmas Carol, the main character is an old man who was very unkind to everybody, and especially to Bob, a man who worked for him. On Christmas Eve, he did not give him any extra money, or let him go home early, as is the custom. However, in the night he had a terrible dream, in which he saw all the awful things that would happen to him if he continued to be unkind. On Christmas morning he woke up a changed man. He bought a turkey and sent it to Bob's house, and on the following day he put his salary up.
Now here's the passage again.
Christmas is an occasion when traditionally people are supposed to be especially kind to each other. In one of Charles Dickens's most famous stories, A Christmas Carol, the main character is an old man who was very unkind to everybody, and especially to Bob, a man who worked for him. On Christmas Eve, He did not give him any extra money, or let him go home early, as is the custom. However, in the night he had a terrible dream, in which he saw all the awful things that would happen to him if he continued to be unkind. On Christmas morning he woke up a changed man. He bought a turkey and sent it to Bob's house, and on the following day he put his salary up.
Now check the dictation in your book. That's the end of chapter 5.